You filthy lying thief! Get your black hands off that evidence before I have you locked up for good. Judge Evelyn Harper's gavel froze mid-air as Deputy Sheriff Carl Ramsey's voice cracked through the packed Chicago courtroom like a whip. His meaty finger jabbed inches from attorney Aisha Thompson's face. The entire gallery gasped. Aisha stood at the defense table in a simple navy skirt suit, her locks pulled into a neat bun, holding nothing but a thin manila folder containing lab reports that could destroy Ramsey's entire case. Filthy animals like you belong in cages, not courthouses. Ramsey roared again, spit flying. He snatched the folder from her grip and flung it across the room. Papers exploded like confetti. The prosecutor, District Attorney Mark Ellison, smirked from his seat. Bailiff Rodriguez chuckled under his breath. Even the court reporter's fingers paused above her machine. Aisha didn't flinch. She simply bent down, calm as Sunday morning, and began gathering the scattered pages. Her client, 17-year-old Malik Carter, sat handcuffed beside her, eyes wide with terror. This was supposed to be a simple hearing for a wrongful arrest charge. Instead, it had become a public execution. Have you ever watched someone be stripped of their humanity in a place built for justice? The courtroom smelled of polished wood and stale coffee. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, catching dust motes that danced like tiny witnesses. Outside, Chicago's November wind rattled the glass. Inside, the temperature felt 20 degrees colder. Judge Evelyn Harper, a white woman in her late 60s with silver hair and a reputation for running a tight ship, finally brought the gavel down. "Deputy Ramsey," her voice cut sharp. "Step back from counsel immediately." But Ramsey wasn't done. He leaned over the defense table, veins bulging in his neck. "Your Honor, this woman tried to tamper with evidence." "I saw her. She's been coaching that little thug all morning." Malik shrank in his orange jumpsuit. Aisha stood tall. "Deputy," she said quietly, "you're confusing me with someone who's afraid of you." The gallery murmured. Phones lifted. Someone started recording. Ramsey's face turned purple. "You threatening an officer of the court?" "No," Aisha replied, sliding the last lab report back into the folder. "I'm reminding you whose court this actually is." Ellison, the prosecutor, finally spoke up, his tone dripping with fake concern. "Your Honor, defense counsel has been disruptive all morning. Perhaps we should hold her in contempt?" Judge Harper's eyes narrowed. "Mr. Ellison, I'll decide what happens in my courtroom. Deputy Ramsey, return to your post, now!" Ramsey stormed back to the side door, boots thudding like gunshots, but not before muttering loud enough for the front row to hear. "Typical. They always play the victim." Aisha smoothed her skirt and turned to the judge. "Your Honor, before we proceed, may I address the court regarding the chain of custody for the evidence Deputy Ramsey just assaulted me over?" Judge Harper nodded stiffly. "Proceed, Counselor." Aisha opened the folder. "These are the original lab results from the Illinois State Crime Lab, signed and dated October 14th. They show 0 DNA match between my client and the alleged burglary tools. 0 fingerprints, 0 gunshot residue. In fact, the only fingerprints recovered belonged to one person." She paused, letting the silence stretch like a tightrope. "Deputy Carl Ramsey himself." The courtroom erupted. Ellison shot to his feet. "Objection. Speculative." "Overruled," Judge Harper snapped. "Sit down, Mr. Ellison," Aisha continued, voice steady as steel. "Furthermore, Your Honor, the dash cam footage from Ramsey's patrol car, which the state conveniently forgot to disclose, shows him planting those tools in Malik's backpack 37 minutes after the alleged crime. Malik's mother, sitting in the front row, let out a sob that echoed off the walls. Judge Harper's face had gone pale. "Counsel, approach the bench." "Both of you, now." Aisha walked forward. Ellison followed, sweating through his expensive suit. The court reporter's machine clicked like a ticking bomb. At the bench, Judge Harper leaned in close. "Miss Thompson, are you telling me the arresting officer fabricated evidence against a juvenile?" "Yes, Your Honor, and he's done it 43 times in the last 5 years," Ellison hissed. "This is outrageous. She's making accusations without proof." Aisha reached into her briefcase and pulled out a thick-bound report. "Actually, I have proof. 43 cases, all young black men, all charged with crimes they didn't commit, all arrested by Deputy Carl Ramsey. Dismissal rate? 91%. Settlement payouts from the county? Over $12 million. She slid the report across the bench. Judge Harper's hands trembled as she opened it, page after page of dismissed cases. Page after page of young faces that looked just like Malik's. The judge looked up, eyes blazing. "Where did you get this?" "Freedom of Information Act," Aisha said simply. "Plus a very cooperative whistleblower inside the sheriff's department. Someone who's tired of watching children be criminalized for existing." Ellison tried again. "Your Honor, this is a stunt." "She's grandstanding!" "No," Judge Harper said quietly. "This is justice catching up." She turned to the bailiff. "Bailiff Rodriguez, place Deputy Carl Ramsey under arrest." The courtroom went dead silent. Rodriguez hesitated. "Your Honor?" "You heard me." "Arrest him now." Ramsey's face drained of color as Rodriguez approached, cuffs ready. "This is a mistake." "She set me up." Aisha turned to face him fully. "No, Deputy. You set yourself up. Every single time you decided a black kid's future was worth less than your arrest quota." Ramsey lunged toward her. "You lying!" Rodriguez tackled him to the ground. The gallery exploded in chaos. Phones flashed. Someone shouted, "World Star!" Judge Harper banged her gavel so hard it cracked. "Order! Order in this court!" As Ramsey was dragged away in cuffs, still screaming about conspiracies, Aisha returned to the defense table. Malik stared at her like she'd descended from heaven. "Miss Thompson," he whispered, "are we free?" She smiled for the first time all morning. "Not yet, baby." "But we're getting there." Judge Harper cleared her throat. The courtroom quieted. "Before I rule on the motion to dismiss," she said, voice shaking with something that might have been rage or revelation, "I want the record to reflect what just occurred here today. A decorated deputy sheriff assaulted defense counsel in open court. He destroyed evidence. He attempted to intimidate a 17-year-old child, and he did it all while wearing the uniform of law enforcement." She removed her glasses, wiping them slowly. "This court has failed Malik Carter. This system has failed every single name in that report. But today, that ends." She looked directly at Aisha. "Ms. Thompson, your motion to dismiss is granted with prejudice. All charges against Malik Carter are dropped immediately. Furthermore, I am ordering his immediate release and expungement of his record." Malik's mother screamed, falling to her knees. Judge Harper wasn't finished. "I am also ordering an emergency hearing for tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Deputy Ramsey will be charged with 43 counts of evidence tampering, civil rights violations, and perjury. The state's attorney's office will be investigated for prosecutorial misconduct, and every single case Ramsey touched will be reopened." Ellison slumped in his chair like a deflated balloon. But Aisha wasn't done either. She stood again. "Your Honor, if I may?" Judge Harper nodded. "Always, Counselor?" "There's one more thing the court should know." Aisha reached into her briefcase and pulled out a single sheet of paper. "This is my appointment letter, signed by Governor Pritchard herself, effective January 1st. She held it up for the entire courtroom to see. "I've been nominated to fill the vacant seat on the Illinois Appellate Court, 1st District." The gallery lost their minds. Judge Harper actually smiled. "Well, Judge Thompson-to-be, it appears justice has excellent timing." Aisha turned to Malik, unlocking his cuffs herself. "You're going home today, baby. And tomorrow we start making sure no other mother has to sit where yours sat." As Malik hugged his mother, sobbing into her shoulder, Aisha looked up at the judge's bench. Judge Harper met her eyes. Something passed between them. Two black women who'd spent their lives proving they belonged in rooms that tried to keep them out. The court reporter's machine finally stopped clicking. Outside, news vans were already pulling up. Phones had captured everything. The video was spreading faster than wildfire. Justice for Malik was trending nationwide within minutes. But inside that courtroom, something bigger had just been born. Because sometimes, the most powerful moment isn't when the gavel falls. It's when the person holding it finally sees the truth. And the real story was just beginning. The hallway outside Judge Harper's courtroom smelled like bleach and broken promises. Reporters shoved microphones forward like spears. Camera flashes popped so fast they turned the marble corridor into astrobe-lit war zone. Aisha Thompson stepped through the doors with Malik's small hand tucked inside hers. his mother, Denise Carter. On the other side, the boy's orange jumpsuit had been swapped for a too-big Cook County Sheriff's sweatshirt that swallowed him whole. Aisha. Judge Thompson. Over here! Ms. Carter, how does it feel to have your son free? Is it true Ramsey planted evidence in 43 cases? Aisha raised one palm. The crowd quieted the way. Only a black woman who has just dismantled an empire can make it quiet. Today, she began, voice low but carrying to the back wall, is not about me. It's about every Malik, every Jamal, every 17-year-old who got turned into a statistic because somebody needed a promotion. Denise squeezed her son tighter. Tears carved clean lines through the makeup she'd put on at 4 a.m. Hoping, praying, this would be the day, Aisha continued. Tomorrow at 9, this courthouse opens its doors again. And every single family Ramsey hurt will be right here. We're not asking for justice anymore. We're taking it. A cheer went up. Someone started clapping. Then the whole hallway was thunder. But across town, in a beige interview room that smelled like burnt coffee and fear, Deputy Carl Ramsey sat handcuffed to Amidal table. His uniform shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, tie gone, badge confiscated. Detective LaToya Brooks, black woman, 20-year veteran, zero patience, dropped a banker's box on the table. It landed with a thud that made Ramsey flinch. 43 files, she said, flipping the lid. Every one of your greatest hits. Ramsey tried for a smirk. It came out shaky. "I want my union rep. You'll get him." "After you watch this." LaToya hit play on the tablet. Security footage from the courtroom filled the screen. Ramsey's own voice boomed. "Filthy animals like you belong in cages, not courthouses." His younger self on the screen snatched the folder from Aisha, flung it, loomed over her like a bully in a schoolyard. LaToya paused the video. "That's you assaulting an officer of the court. On camera, in front of a sitting judge. You feeling smart yet, Carl?" Ramsey's bravado cracked. "She provoked me." Wrong answer. LaToya pulled out a second tablet. "This is body cam footage from March 12th, 2023. You remember Darius Brooks? 16 years old? You told his mama he resisted when he asked why he was being detained. Except your own camera shows you slammed him face first into a squad car for holding a cell phone." She hit play again. The crack of Darius's head against metal echoed. Ramsey looked away. LaToya wasn't done. She opened file after file, photos of bruised wrists, hospital reports, tear-streaked mothers holding dismissed case papers like funeral programs. $12 million, she said quietly. That's what the county has paid to make your mess disappear. But money doesn't bring back the college acceptances these kids lost. Doesn't give back the jobs, doesn't erase the nightmares. Ramsey's voice came out small. "I was following orders. Whose?" He clamped his mouth shut. LaToya leaned in until he could smell her peppermint gum. "You've got two choices, Carl. Door number 1, you keep lying and we charge you with 43 felonies plus today's assault on Aisha Thompson. Mandatory minimums stack up real pretty. You'll die in Stateville." She let that breathe for a second. "Door number 2. You tell us who signed off on the quotas, who deleted the dashcam files, who taught you that terrorizing black kids was part of the job description. You help us burn the whole rotten tree down, and maybe, just maybe, you see daylight before you're 70. Ramsey stared at the table. The cuffs clinked when his hands started shaking. Back at the courthouse, the sun had set, but the third-floor law library glowed like a war room. Aisha stood at the head of a long oak table, surrounded by 12 mothers, 3 fathers, 2 public defenders, and 1 very tired law student handing out Red Bull. Stacks of Ramsey's cases rose like skyscrapers. "Tomorrow," Aisha said, "we walk in there together. Every parent, every exoneree, every kid who spent nights in juvie because Carl Ramsey needed numbers. We fill the gallery until the walls sweat." Denise Carter raised a trembling hand. "What if they try to silence us again?" Aisha smiled the way a lioness smiles at a hyena. "They already tried." "Look where that got them." She clicked the projector. A new slide appeared, Operation Clean Sweep. Phase 1, public hearing, 9 a.m. Phase 2, federal civil rights. Lawsuit, 11 a.m. Phase 3, press conference on the courthouse steps, noon underneath. In bold red letters, no settlements, No NDAs. No more secrets. One of the mothers, Carla Evans, whispered, "My boy took a plea because Ramsey threatened to charge him as an adult. He was 15. Aisha laid a hand on her shoulder. Tomorrow that plea gets vacated, and Ramsey gets to hear your son's name in open court. The law student passed around Sharpies and poster board. By midnight, the library looked like an art class for righteous fury. I deserve to turn 18 free, Marcus. 17, my son is not your quota, Denise Carter. 43 families. 1 predator. Clean sweep across the city. In a corner bar that smelled like old beer and regret. Former Deputy Ramirez's union rep slid a yellow legal pad across the table. "Sign this," he said. "Limited immunity for full cooperation. You give up the sheriff, the training sergeant, the records clerk who lost the videos. You walk on the assault charge against Thompson. State's attorney drops it to a misdemeanor." Ramsey stared at the pen like it was poison. "Carl," the rep said softer, "they've got you on high-definition video calling a sitting appellate judge a filthy animal. You're not walking away clean unless you give them someone bigger." Ramsey picked up the pen. His hand shook so hard, the first signature looked like a heartbeat on a lie detector. At 3:17 a.m., Detective Brooks's phone buzzed. Ramsey flipped. "Full proffer starts at 0600, bring coffee." He named everybody. She forwarded the text to Aisha with 3 fire emojis. Aisha read it in the library, surrounded by sleeping mothers using case files for pillows. She allowed herself one quiet laugh that echoed off the law books. Then, she opened her laptop and started typing. The federal complaint that would gut an entire sheriff's department. Before breakfast, by 7 a.m., the courthouse steps looked like a family reunion nobody wanted to miss. 43 families. Handmade signs, new helicopters circling overhead. Malik Carter stood front and center wearing a brand new suit Aisha had sent to his house at dawn. Denise kept touching the jacket like she was afraid it would vanish. Inside, Judge Harper's courtroom had been reassigned to the largest ceremonial courtroom on the 5th floor. Seats filled in minutes after the doors opened. Reporters stood in the aisles. At 8:59 a.m., Aisha walked in wearing judicial black, because today she wasn't just counsel. She was the storm. Behind her marched the families, 43 strong. They filled every bench until latecomers had to stand. At 9 sharp, the door at the back opened again. Sheriff Donald Hargrove himself strode in, dress uniform crisp, medals gleaming. He expected a routine hearing. Instead, he walked into a wall of eyes that hated him in 43 different ways. Judge Harper entered from chambers. The gavel fell once. "This emergency hearing," she began, "is now in session. The matter before the court is the systemic misconduct of Deputy Carl Ramsey and any co-conspirators within the Cook County Sheriff's Department." She looked directly at Sheriff Hargrove. "Sheriff, you've been subpoenaed as a material witness. Take the stand." Hargrove's face went the color of skim milk. Aisha stood. "Your Honor, before the sheriff testifies, the people call our first witness, former Deputy Carl Ramsey." The side door opened. Ramsey shuffled in wearing an orange jumpsuit, ankles chained, hands cuffed to a belly chain. The gallery went dead silent. He looked smaller than he had yesterday, like the uniform had been the only thing holding him together. Aisha approached slowly. "Deputy Ramsey," she said, voice gentle steel, "do you recognize the woman you called a filthy animal yesterday?" Ramsey's eyes flicked to her, then away. "Yes, ma'am." Louder. "Yes, Judge Thompson." The gallery inhaled as one. Aisha placed the proffer agreement on the rail in front of him. "Did you sign this document at 5:47 a.m., granting you immunity in exchange for truthful testimony?" "Yes." "Then let's begin with the truth you've been paid $12 million to hide." She turned to the judge. "Your Honor, the witness will now read the names of every child he framed, every quota he filled, and every superior who ordered it." Ramsey's voice cracked on the first name. Jamari Williams. Age 16. Charged with possession. Evidence planted March 3, 2022. With each name, a parent in the gallery stood. 43 parents. 43 standing ovations of pain turned into power. When he reached Malik Carter's name, Denise Carter walked straight to the front of the courtroom and placed her son's juvenile detention photo on the evidence table. Ramsey couldn't finish. He broke down sobbing. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Aisha didn't comfort him. She simply turned to Sheriff Hargrove, still waiting to be sworn in. "Your turn, Sheriff. The witness has named you 17 times. Care to explain why terrorizing black children was official department policy?" Hargrove opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Judge Harper's gavel slammed down like the closing of a coffin. "Sheriff Donald Hargrove, you are hereby remanded into federal custody pending investigation by the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division." The bailiffs moved faster than anyone thought possible, as Hargrove was led away in cuffs, same path Ramsey had just walked. The gallery rose to their feet. Not in chaos, in applause, slow, rhythmic, the sound of chains breaking. Aisha turned to the families. "Phase 1 complete," she checked her watch. 10:47 a.m. Phase 2, the federal lawsuit, files in 13 minutes. Phase 3, press conference on the steps, starts at noon. She looked at Malik. "You ready to speak to the world, baby?" Malik straightened the tie Aisha had knotted for him that morning. "Yes, ma'am." "Judge Thompson." The gallery laughed through tears. Outside, the news choppers hovered lower. The crowd on the steps had tripled. Someone had brought a drumline. Someone else was live streaming to 500,000 viewers. Aisha stepped to the microphone at 11:59 a.m. sharp. 43 families formed a wall behind her. She didn't shout. She didn't need to. "Today," she said, "Cook County learned that when you come for one of us, you come for all of us." The drums stopped. The city held its breath. "And tomorrow," she continued, "we start fixing every courthouse, every precinct, every classroom that ever told a black child they didn't belong." She raised the federal complaint high above her head. "This is for every name Ramsey read. This is for every mother who cried in a hallway. This is for Malik Carter, who gets to go home tonight and dream about college instead of cages." The crowd roared so loud the courthouse windows shook. Aisha leaned in close to the microphone, voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried to every phone, every screen, every heart watching. Respect doesn't need a badge. It only needs struth. And behind her, 43 families started singing, "Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Around." The revolution had a soundtrack, and it was just getting started. The federal building downtown smelled like fresh paint and fear. At 7:03 a.m. the next day, Aisha Thompson walked through the revolving doors, wearing the same navy suit from the day she was called a filthy animal. Only now the jacket carried the tiny gold pin of the Illinois Appellate Court, pinned there at 5:47 a.m. by Governor Pritchard herself in a private ceremony that had already leaked to every news station in the Midwest. Reporters formed a human tunnel. "Judge Thompson, will you recuse yourself from Ramsey-related appeals? Judge, is this the biggest civil rights filing in Illinois history? Ma'am, smile, you're on every morning show." Aisha didn't smile. She stopped dead center in the lobby, raised one hand, and the entire press corps went church quiet. "Cameras off for 10 seconds, she said. They obeyed. That's how much power truth carries when it finally gets a robe. She spoke soft enough that they had to lean in. "Every question you just shouted will be answered in courtroom 2501 at 9 o'clock. Until then, the only thing I want on every front page is the 43 names Ramsey cried through yesterday. Put the children first. Earn your access." Cameras came back on. Lights blinded. But not one reporter asked another selfish question. They were too busy typing names. Up on the 25th floor, the largest ceremonial courtroom in the federal district had been cleared for one purpose: the filing of Carter et al. V. Cook County Sheriff's Department et al. A 183-page complaint with 43 plaintiffs, 312 exhibits, and a prayer for relief that read like a battle cry. At 8:57 a.m., the families filed in. Wearing Sunday best pressed at 3 a.m., Denise Carter carried Malik's new high school diploma, earned in night school while on electronic monitoring, folded like a flag. At 8:59 a.m., the United States. Marshals opened the gallery doors for the defendants. Sheriff Hargrove shuffled in. wearing a gray prison jumpsuit 2 sizes too big. Ramsey followed, head shaved for lice protocol at Stateville. Behind them came the training sergeant, the records clerk, the internal affairs captain who lost 187 dash cam files, and, because justice has a sense of humor, former district attorney Mark Ellison, now in a cheap suit because his law license was suspended at midnight. Every defendant wore cuffs. Every plaintiff wore hope. At 9 a.m. sharp, the Honorable Judge Marcus Washington, federal bench, lifetime appointment, former ACLU warrior, took the bench. His robe was so new the creases still showed. All rise. For the future. The courtroom rose as one. Judge Washington didn't bother with opening pleasantries. He looked straight at the defense table where 12 high-priced attorneys were sweating through Italian wool. "Counsel," he said, voice deep as South Side summer thunder. "I've read the complaint. I've watched the courtroom video. I've seen the body cam stills of children with boot prints on their backs. So let me be perfectly clear. This court will not entertain motions to dismiss, motions to sever, or any other delay tactic you faxed over at 4 a.m. We are here for one reason, to schedule the fastest, fairest, most transparent trial in the history of this district. One defense lawyer tried anyway. Your Honor, the sheer number of—" Judge Washington cut him off with a look that could freeze Lake Michigan. "Son, 43 children spent a combined 312 months in cages because your clients needed arrest quotas. You will sit down and you will listen to their mothers." The lawyer sat. Judge Washington turned to the plaintiff's table. Aisha stood alone, no co-counsel, no paralegals. Just her and the weight of 43 futures. "Judge Thompson," he said, using her new title like a benediction, "the United States offers its full cooperation. DOJ Civil Rights Division is here. FBI Evidence Response Team is here. And because this case is bigger than one county, the Attorney General has authorized live streaming on the department's official channel. No sealed motions. No secret settlements. The world watches." Aisha inclined her head. "Thank you, Your Honor. Plaintiffs accept." She stepped to the podium. Behind her, the families had arranged themselves in chronological order of arrest, youngest to oldest. Malik Carter, now diploma in hand, stood first in line. "Your Honor," Aisha began, "before we set a trial date, the plaintiffs request one preliminary remedy." She clicked a remote. The screen behind her lit up with a simple slide. Immediate relief sought. Full expungement for all 43 plaintiffs, $1 million per year of wrongful incarceration per plaintiff. Creation of the Malik Carter Justice Fund, 43 million seed. Permanent federal oversight of Cook County Sheriff's Department mandatory body cameras with cloud backup that cannot be deleted for 100 years. The defense table erupted. Outrageous. Punitive. Unconstitutional. Judge Washington banged his gavel once. The sound cracked like Judgment Day. "Counsel, you had your turn for 20 years. Today the children speak." He nodded to Malik. The 17-year-old walked to the witness stand, diploma clutched like a shield. The clerk swore him in. His voice didn't shake. "My name is Malik Carter. I want to read my college essay, the one I wrote in juvie." He unfolded a single sheet. Prompt. Describe a challenge you overcame. I once thought the biggest challenge was getting straight A's while wearing an ankle monitor. Turns out the real challenge was staying human when grown men in uniforms decided my black skin made me guilty before I opened my mouth. Yesterday, a judge told me I get to keep my future. Today, I'm asking this court to give 42 other kids the same gift. He looked straight at Sheriff Hargrove. "I forgive you for what you took from me, but I will never forget. And I will never let you take from another child again." Malik stepped down. The next plaintiff stepped up. Then the next. 43 stories. 43 minutes. 43 lifetimes. When the last mother finished, the courtroom was sobbing. Reporters, marshals, even the stenographer. Judge Washington removed his glasses. His eyes were red. "Plaintiff's motion for preliminary relief is granted in full. Effective immediately." He turned to the defense table. "Counsel, you have 72 hours to produce every document, every email, every text message, every deleted file. If I find one shred of spoliation, I will personally see every one of you disbarred and your clients in federal prison. Then he did something no federal judge had ever done on record. He stepped down from the bench, walked to Malik Carter, and shook his hand. "Young man," he said, voice cracking, "you just changed the country." The gallery rose in a standing ovation that lasted 8 full minutes. Outside, the steps of the federal building had become a festival of freedom. Someone had set up a bouncy castle. Someone else was grilling. A gospel choir from Malik's grandmother's church sang, "Oh Freedom," while news drones circled overhead. Aisha stepped to the microphones at noon. She didn't shout. She didn't need to. Today, the United States government admitted that 43 children were stolen. Today, the United States government gave them back their names, their futures, and $43 million to build whatever dreams they want. She held up a check, the first disbursement. Already cut, made out to the Malik Carter Justice Fund, but money is only step 1. Step 2 is oversight that never sleeps. Step 3 is every sheriff, every mayor, every governor watching this right now knowing that if they come for our children, we will come for their careers, their pensions, their freedom. She looked dead into the cameras. To every black child watching this in a classroom, in a foster home, in a cell, listen to me. You are not the crime they say you are. You are the cure this country has been praying for. Then she did something that broke the internet. She took off her appellate court pin, knelt in front of Malik Carter, and pinned it to his graduation gown. "This belongs to you now," she said. "Wear it until you're the one on the bench." Malik hugged her so hard his diploma crinkled. Behind them, the 43 families formed a circle, arms linked, and started singing "Lift Every Voice and Sing." By nightfall, Dr. Malik pin was the #1 trending topic worldwide. Little black boys across America started pinning safety pins to their shirts. Until it's my turn. Inside the federal building, long after the cameras left, Aisha sat alone in the now empty courtroom. She opened her phone. A text from Judge Harper. "You made me believe in this system again. Thank you, Your Honor." Another text from an unknown number. "Judge Thompson, this is Michelle Obama. The girls want to meet Malik. Bring him to the house." Aisha laughed until she cried. Then she opened her laptop and started writing the majority opinion for the inevitable appeal that would come. She titled it, "People Viva Systemic Terror Majority. Justice Doesn't Knock." She breaks the door down, and somewhere in Stateville, Carl Ramsey watched the news on a 12-inch TV bolted to the wall. The anchor said, "Today, 43 children became millionaires, and the state of Illinois became accountable." Ramsey closed his eyes. For the first time in 20 years, he understood what the word consequences actually felt like. But the real reckoning was waiting for tomorrow, because Aisha Thompson had one more surprise, one that would make the sheriff's department wish they'd never laid eyes on a 17-year-old boy with a future brighter than their badges ever were. And the country was about to learn that when black women get tired of begging for justice, they start building courthouses of their own. 1 year later, Cook County Juvenile Detention Center, 6:47 a.m. The gates that once swallowed children now stood wide open, wrapped in yellow ribbon like a birthday present nobody expected. Aisha Thompson stepped out of a black Suburban wearing judicial robes over jeans, because today wasn't about formality. Today was about demolition. Behind her walked Malik Carter, 18 now, taller, shoulders squared under a University of Chicago hoodie. In his right hand, he carried a gold-plated sledgehammer engraved with 43 names. In his left, the original cracked gavel Judge Harper had smashed the day Ramsey was arrested. Television drones buzzed overhead. Every major network had a live feed. The hashtag Demolition Day was already trending at #1 worldwide. At 7 a.m. sharp, Aisha raised a wireless microphone. 1 year ago today, her voice boomed across the abandoned parking lot. This building stole childhoods. Today we give them back. She handed the mic to Malik. He didn't clear his throat. He didn't need to. My name is Malik Carter. 1 year ago, I walked out of this place in handcuffs for a crime I didn't commit. Today I walk in with a wrecking ball for a system that did. The crowd, 5,000 strong, roared. 42 other exonerees stood beside him holding identical sledgehammers. Their mothers held roses. Malik turned to the building. This is for every night I cried myself to sleep on a concrete slab. This is for every college letter that got returned unopened. This is for every mama who had to visit her baby through plexiglass. He swung. The first crack split the air like freedom. 43 sledgehammers followed in perfect rhythm. Boom, 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 like a heartbeat the county finally had to listen to. Concrete dust rose in golden clouds. Children who'd once been inmates now danced in it. By 7:15, the front wall collapsed. Through the hole, you could see the old holding cells, tiny, gray, windowless tombs. Aisha stepped through the rubble in her robes and stood in the exact spot where Malik had once been fingerprinted. She raised the cracked gavel. This building is hereby sentenced to death. Effective immediately, the wrecking ball, painted with the scales of justice, swung in. Metal screamed. Walls fell. The sound was symphony and funeral all at once. At 8:30 a.m., the site was flat. In its place, a temporary stage and 43 folding chairs arranged in a circle. Aisha took the center. Phase 4, she announced. Begins now. She clicked a remote. A rendering appeared on a massive screen. The Malik Carter Justice Campus, state-of-the-art juvenile diversion center, free legal clinic STEM Academy for System-Impacted Youth Trauma Therapy Wing Community Garden, named after every mother who ever waited in a visitation line, total cost. $86 million fully funded by the Carter vs. Cook County settlement, no taxpayer dollars. Malik stepped forward holding architectural blueprints. I'm breaking ground today, he said, voice steady. And I'm enrolling every single one of you as my first students. He looked at the 42 other exonerees. We don't need pity. We need power. And we're taking it. One classroom, one garden, one healed heart at a time. The crowd parted. Governor Pritchard walked up with a golden shovel. Beside her, the Attorney General, the mayor, and, because karma has receipts, former Sheriff Hargrove in an orange jumpsuit, ankle monitor blinking, sentenced to 400 hours of community service. He carried the shovel's twin. Aisha handed Hargrove a hard hat labeled Supervisor of Demolition. Your new job title, Sheriff. You get to watch children build what you spent 20 years tearing down. Cameras flashed as Hargrove, face gray, eyes hollow, dug the first scoop of earth beside Malik. Malik leaned in so only Hargrove could hear. Dirt feels different when it's for planting instead of burying, doesn't it? Hargrove couldn't answer. He was crying too hard. By noon, the foundation was poured. By 3 p.m., the first classroom walls were framed, built by the same hands that once broke them. At sunset, Aisha stood alone on the fresh concrete, robes whipping in the November wind. Her phone buzzed. A text from Judge Harper, now retired. You kept your promise. The system breathes different now. Another text. This one from the White House, Judge Thompson. The president would like to nominate you to the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals. Aisha smiled. Typed back, tell her I'll accept on one condition. Every federal courthouse in the circuit gets a Malik Carter Justice Wing. 3 dots. Then, deal. She pocketed the phone and looked out at the skeleton of the new campus. 43 children, now young adults, were laughing as they painted a mural on the foundation wall. It showed a cracked gavel blooming into a sunflower. Underneath, in Malik's handwriting, we were never the problem. We were the breakthrough. Aisha walked over, picked up a brush, and added one final detail beneath the sunflower. Respect doesn't need a title. Only truth. She stepped back. The mural was perfect. Malik joined her, paint on his cheek like war paint. Judge Thompson, he said, using the title like it belonged to both of them. You still got that safety pin? She unpinned the gold appellate court emblem from her robe and handed it to him. He pinned it to the mural right over the sunflower's heart. Now it's official, he grinned. Justice lives here. Behind them, the old detention center sign lay in the dirt, bullet-riddled from the celebration. Someone had spray-painted over it. Closed forever. Love always. The 43 drones captured the image from above. By nightfall, it was on every screen in America. Little black boys in Bedrooms across the country took safety, pins from their mothers' sewing kits, and pinned them to their pillows. Little black girls fell asleep, dreaming of robes instead of wrap, sheets, and in a federal prison cell in downstate Illinois, Carl Ramsey watched the news on a cracked television. The anchor said, "Today, the building that once caged children became the foundation that frees them." Ground was broken on the Malik Carter Justice Campus, fully funded by the largest civil rights settlement in American history. Former Deputy Carl Ramsey begins year one of a 25-year sentence. His only window faces north, toward the campus he can never visit. Ramsey closed his eyes. For the first time in his life, he understood what the word caged really meant. And somewhere in Chicago, a grandmother turned off her TV, kissed the safety pin on her nightstand, and whispered to the dark, "They thought they buried us. They didn't know we were seeds." The revolution wasn't televised. It was built, brick by brick, tear by tear, name by name, on the exact spot where they once tried to break us. And it is finished. But the story is just beginning. Because every time a black child walks past that sunflower mural and touches that gold pin, they remember, the filthy animal they called you yesterday, she's the judge deciding your tomorrow. Respect doesn't need a title, only truth. And truth, baby, truth wears robes now.